Hi there, my name is Peter Janis, and today I want to talk to you about the Radial JDI Direct Box. The DI, like this, is called a passive DI box. So the JDI is passive. That means there's no power required to run it. How it works is that you typically take a base, run it into the DI box, and let's add a little bit of color to this. We'll call that the JDI, right there. From the DI box, a signal goes through to the amplifier. From the DI box, XLR output, so from this guy here to the mixing console, from there, of course, out to the PA system. So a DI box is typically used in a live environment. The idea behind it is that it splits the signal so that you can run more than one thing at a time. You want to run a guitar amplifier or a bass amplifier, you want to run a PA system, and in recording, of course, you can record direct by just plugging in and through. Now, what makes the JDI particularly cool is that if you open it up, inside, you're going to see a bunch of really cool stuff. Most important is this little JDI transformer. So this is a Jensen JTDBE transformer. Spectacular transformer, very flat, very natural. It's sitting inside a mu metal can, a metal can. So this special nickel can is designed to stop magnetic fields from interfering here. Let's talk about how this transformer works just a little bit. So what you have here is a transformer is basically made up with an input coil and an output coil that's called a primary and a secondary. What happens is that as you send signal inside this transformer, a magnetic field is generated and it goes through the core material and then reintroduces current into the secondary field. So it's an electromagnetic bridge. And that's kind of important for you to understand, because if you notice, there's no physical or electrical contact between the input and the output. It's just a straight magnetic bridge. So because there's no connection there, it gets rid of a whole bunch of problems called ground loops, so buzz and hum. How do those occur? Very simple. This bass amplifier might be connected to ground here. The mixing console might be connected to ground here. As soon as you connect this whole system together through a DI box, you get what they call a ground loop. So basically, there's your loop right there. You can see how that loop occurs. And that ground loop is typically caused because this box might have call it a 30-volt reference to ground, while the mixing console might have a 16-volt reference to ground. As you connect the two devices together, sometimes stray voltage, DC, all this stuff kind of gets messed up and it causes hum and buzz, and that's what we hear when we hear ground loops, that aggravating sound. What the JDI does, because it's using a passive transformer, it actually isolates the two. You don't get a problem, so it's much quieter. The other cool thing about a really good transformer like the JDI is that you can hit it really hard with a lot of signal and it won't distort the same way as an active DI box will. Let me explain that. If you can imagine, a typical DI box runs, and it works within what they call rail voltage. So these would be your rails here. A typical DI box might have, call it about 3 volts as far as rail. So if you hit it any harder than that, well, what happens, of course, that signal tries to go beyond that level, and it square waves. And that's exactly what they call that. They call that square wave distortion. Okay? So that's exactly what it is. And the other word for it is, of course, is clipping. That's the problem with an active DI box. You clip the signal, you have a problem. What a JDI does is a little bit different. Transformers don't clip, they saturate. They almost have that vintage quality to the sound. That's what people often talk about. They say, I love the sound of their old vintage gear. Most times what they really like is the sound of the transformer. Transformers just have a natural way of clipping, then it's called saturation. So what happens is, instead of going square right up at the top, the signal kind of goes up here and it kind of rounds out like that. Because it rounds out, you don't get the same kind of effect. It sounds different, it sounds smoother. For active basses, it's amazing. For digital pianos, you can kick the crap out of this thing and it really sounds good. We get so many great players that are using JDIs that are just really, really top-notch musicians. They love the sound of the DI box because of the way it really works well with their keyboards and with their bass guitars. So that's what the JDI is all about. You can hit it really hard. Now, there are a whole bunch of features on this box also. And I want to just talk about those a little bit quickly. For example, if you've got a stereo keyboard, you can put your left and right in here, hit what they call the merge function, and that will then combine the two so that it's mono on the output. You also here have a ground lift switch, and that, sorry, this is a pad on this one. On this side we've got a pad. The pad, what that does is it basically reduces the sensitivity to the transformer for maybe CD players and stuff like that. On the other side, you've got a whole host of other features. Of course, you've got your XLR output. You've got a ground lift switch here that can eliminate buzz and hum a little bit further. So if you're still having some problems with noise, that can help out. And then you've got a reversed for the polarity here. And that's kind of important. What that's used for is to time align your PA system, and it's also to eliminate feedback with acoustic guitars on stage. You'll find that sometimes by reversing the phase, what you're actually doing is you're moving a problem. You're moving what they call a null away from the hot spot where you might be playing, so that might get rid of feedback for you on stage. So that's a really handy feature. And finally, there's a little speaker pad here, and what that's designed to do is introduce a bandpass filter so that your DI box can sound a little bit more like a speaker cabinet. So that's just an added feature that we throw on the JDI. Construction-wise, you'll notice that internally, this is what they call an I-beam construction. So that's important, especially if you think in terms of durability on stage. You can't torque this PC board because the construction is so rugged. That means that we have a lot less problems with repairs than other companies. Our repair rate on these is so low, we can't even measure it. And the reason is that the PC board is so well protected, it doesn't get the stress. The other thing that we've done is we have what we call a bookend design. So when that goes in like this, you'll notice that the switches and connectors are protected. That really helps, again, solve problems because DI boxes don't get any respect. They get beaten up. Finally, you'll notice there's a, oh, we got an orange sticker here. We've got a bottom pad, and this non-slip pad, what that does, it fits on something, it won't slide around. But really important is that on your guitar amplifier or on your bass amplifier, there's often little bolts sticking up. And these are connected right to the chassis. They in turn can be electrically charged. So when you've got an isolation pad, not only does it stop sliding around, it really helps with electrical isolation. Finally, one other thing I mentioned earlier, you've got this mu metal can. What this is designed to do is to eliminate noise from coming into the transformer. Remember, you've got a guitar amp or a bass amp, you've got this huge transformer inside. It's putting out all kinds of magnetic field. Well, if that magnetic field gets into this magnetic field, we have a problem. So if you're looking at buying a passive DI box and your DI doesn't have a proper mu metal can, you're going to have problems. We use steel, not plastic. So this is real steel, mu metal, which is a nickel alloy inside. Noise doesn't get in, it doesn't pollute your sound, you don't get phase distortion, you don't get all kinds of other problems going on. The Radial JDI, without a doubt, the best passive DI box made today.